I think we're live.
Are we live? Matt, you started a trend. Don Lemon, Matt Odell, Don Lemon, Joy Reid, all leaving. Mark Cuban, they're all
Don't
gone.
put that on me. That is those are not my people. I don't want to be grouped in with them.
Hey, they saw what you did, and they say, "Hey, I need to stand on my principles as well. I'm out."
No, they're like, follow me on Facebook.
Threads, Blue Sky.
It's
Why not
completely
Noster?
different.
Do these people not know about Noster?
Look, Cuban's not deleting. He just deleted all his tweets, right? That's just like some weak scammer bullshit.
He popped up on Blue Sky though. It was like, "Hey, what's up, fellow friends? I'm hanging out here now."
He deleted all of his Harris tweets. Who does that?
Mark Cuban, apparently.
Who does that? That is the weakest shit ever.
The internet never forgets, Mark. You can delete as many tweets as you want. We don't forget.
Okay. Him, Don Lemon, and Joy can all go fuck themselves. I don't want to be grouped in with that category. That is
might be too late. I don't think you get to decide.
Well, I did my thing first, way before they did their thing. First of all, Lemon, like, he actually hasn't even deleted his account, right? Like, he released like a press release saying he was going to delete his account and hasn't deleted.
It was like, and the press release was in the form of like a printed out letter with, like, signed at the bottom with a picture of himself holding a mic.
Yeah, he should. I would like to see him actually go through with it. You know, like, you don't do like the pre-announcement thing. You either delete it or you don't. You don't need like all the fanfare around it.
He's been reduced to like TikTok man on the street interviews. Went from CNN.
And then, to Joy's credit, she actually did press the delete button. But they're deleting for completely different reasons than me, and they're going to Facebook and Blue Sky and YouTube. They're like, follow me on YouTube. They should just delete it all and go Nostr only. But you have proof in the pudding that they don't use Nostr, right? Their goal isn't an open protocol. Their goal, that's like completely opposite of the.
Yeah, X wasn't censoring enough. And not feel safe.
Yeah, my issue is the opposite of that.
Yeah. That's interesting to note. You brought it up.
I don't know. We'll see. My decision will either age beautifully or it won't. But either way, I'll just be living in the forest, growing my family at peace.
Oh, you messed up the title on X.
What did I do?
It's End the Fed. It's supposed to be the greatest Bitcoin bull run in history. What's it on YouTube, Logan?
It looks correct on YouTube. I think I just checked it.
I did it through Restream, so
Restream's all wonky.
I even double checked. I mean, I'll take the blame. I'm happy to take the blame for it. It's still a good title.
It is. It is.
There you go.
The greatest Bitcoin bull run of all time. It feels like it. Are you calling for a super cycle? Is this?
Okay, can we? I'm glad we got the important thing out of the way, first of all, because that's all rubbing me the wrong way that I'm being grouped in with them. The supercycle. We need to define what you mean by supercycle. So, what do you mean by supercycle? Do you just mean a banger of a cycle, or do you mean like an end of cycles?
The latter. A consistent bid.
Yeah, definitely not.
The end of the 85% dumps, and who knows? Maybe we'll have 20 to 50% dumps in the future. I think a consistent bid.
No, I mean, okay. So let's do some math, right? Let's do some basic math.
We all know we're very good at math on this show, so let's get into it.
So the 2016 bull cycle, we went from $800 to $20,000, right?
More like 600 in November 2016
to
17,000. Yeah,
more or less. I mean, it was a blow off top at 20K, right? It was like a blow off top at like 19,500 or something. And then the 2020 cycle, we went from like a previous top of like 20K to 70K or something like that, right? Like 3.5x.
Yep.
So if you did if
Wait, where are you getting your numbers from? That wasn't like 3.5x. Let's go from.
well, we should go from top to top, right? Just to normalize it, top to top. So we went from like 1,000 to 20,000 in 2016, and then we went from 20,000 to 70,000 in 2020, right?
Yep.
So 1,000 to 20,000 is obviously a 20x, and then 20,000 to 70,000 is a 3.5x. So our previous top was 70. So if it was if it was anything like the previous two cycles, it should be between 210,000 and 2 million, right? Or
Yeah,
like
1.8 million.
Yeah, 1.8 million. There you go.
1.8 million. That's what I called for.
Okay, so but no, now you're calling for greater than that. You're calling for not a $1.8 million blow off top. It's just there's no cycles. We're just gonna blow past 1.8, and just this train never stops, and we never have. I guess now you're saying a correction greater than 50%. There'll be
It's
no
definitely
blow-off
possible. It's definitely possible. You have new
You're
types
saying
of.
there'll be no blow off top.
It's possible. It's possible. I don't know. I had a long discussion last night about this, and
I think that's insane. I think you just had. I mean, you had some guy on the podcast who I've never even fucking heard of. He came out. Who's that guy? The Supercycle guy that you had.
I didn't have a Supercycle guy on. Who did I have on?
Did you not have a Supercycle guy on?
I did not have a Supercycle guy on.
No.
Logan,
Okay.
who's a Supercycle guy?
Logan, did you have a Supercycle guy on?
Had a lot of guys on the podcast.
Now you got it. Now you got it in your head. But I mean, of course there's going to be a blow off top. I mean, I think we won't expect the blow off top when the blow off top happens. We never do, and I don't think people should try and trade it. Like, I think you should just stay on one stack sats. And I think this bull run is going to be fucking insane. Like, I think last cycle was suppressed by paper Bitcoin and all the degeneracy games that happened. But I mean, but to say it's just like the end of blow off tops in Bitcoin is just seems like a bullshit call.
You call it bullshit. I call it looking at the multivariate situation.
Multivariate.
Coming to rational conclusions.
Where did the multivariate Marty come from?
Just I'm trying to expand my vocabulary and.
What's the definition of multivariate?
You have many different moving parts, variables.
Yes, there are many variables at play here, I think. But I think humans are inherently like the beautiful thing about Bitcoin is that it is a proper free market. There's no, it's bowling without bumpers. There's no parachute. There's no lender of last resort. So I think what that results in is results in blow off tops. I think that results in people calling for super cycles when we're at like the second inning of a bull cycle, and then getting in way over their skis, leveraging up because their favorite podcaster told them it was a super cycle, and then we have a blow off top as a result.
Don't leverage up, freaks. Logan, pull up the tweet. Going back to like last cycle too, this is in response. Go to the original, the tweet that I'm responding to too. This is Bob. He goes by Bob Rabolos. I just butchered his name. Longtime follower, going back and forth on Twitter for years, and I think this is really important. He highlights what you mentioned, which is that last cycle, FTX really dampened the potential upside of Bitcoin due to the fact that they were rehypothecating. Go down to my tweet. And that's what I think many people are disregarding heading into this cycle. I think it's going to be more like 2016 if we do have a blow off top. I'm not saying super cycles here. I'm saying the multivariate scenario that is unfolding in front of my eyes. He can land on a conclusion that this could be just a persistent cycle, a persistent bid under Bitcoin. And I think heading into this bull cycle, as I say in this tweet, that we're much more structurally sound. People don't understand that FTX, BlockFi, Celsius, and Genesis, their blow-ups essentially forced everybody in our industry to increase their counterparty diligence processes and stay away from irresponsible leverage.
No way. You're saying the
Yes.
adults are in the room now?
Oh, I'm saying. I mean, we've seen this in the portfolio. Like, you had tons of users rush to Strike, Unchain, River, Bitcoin only companies in the aftermath of FTX, and then behind the scenes too. I mean, who was enabling all this? Genesis. I think they've learned their lesson going through their bankruptcy proceedings. I don't think any of the OTC desks like Cumberland or what's the other one? Not Firefox.
Fireblocks.
Not Fireblocks. It's got a fox in it. One of the OTC desks. I don't think they're going to engage in this. So I think much more structurally sound. And then, like we've been talking about for the last few weeks, you have different buyers coming in, state actors. And then I think too,
the responsible state actors and the banks, super responsible players.
Well, that's what I think. I think we're severely understating the potential for echo inflation, 70 styles echo inflation, because I think that could play into Bitcoin's favor heading into this cycle as well. Is like, if you have the perfect timing of nation state buying, strong structural floor with very little leverage compared to previous cycles, and then inflation rears its head again, in spite of what may happen here domestically. Like, I was having a conversation last night, one of the catalysts that could lead to the blow off top and people to jump out of Bitcoin is midterm elections. Who knows how the next 2 years are going to go for the Trump administration, and if you have some economic turmoil and we get to midterm elections and people point at Bitcoin and say this is creating some of this economic stress throughout the economy, that could be a situation, particularly if midterm elections go a certain way towards the left, they can come in and throw water on the bull market. But if inflation is running and the influence that the American political system has on the market more broadly is less pronounced than it has been historically, you could have outside nation state actors saying, I don't care what the U.S. is doing, and continue to buy. That's all I'm saying.
You just
rambled.
What's it called when you're in Congress and you just talk on
filibuster?
Yeah, you just filibuster answered me.
You filibuster on the show week in and week out. I get one filibuster a year, okay, sir? That was my filibuster.
I mean, okay, I'm not saying that it will definitely be an 80% correction, but I think there will be a blow off top at some point, and I'm probably more bullish than 99% of the planet in terms of where this bull cycle takes us.
You're not more bullish than me, sir. That's for damn sure.
I left you in the 1%, but I mean, you're also like engagement baiting. Like there'll be
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Well, at some point. No, I'm not engagement baiting.
This is exactly the scenario that led me to 200K by conference day, because everyone just throws out bullshit numbers. So your incentive is to just throw out a number that's higher than the other people's bullshit numbers.
I'm not throwing out a number. I threw out 1.8
I know.
million.
Yeah, that's what's even. That's you've hit a whole new level of engagement baiting, because you said the number doesn't exist.
It's going up forever, Laura.
No, I agree that I think Bitcoin's designed to pump forever. It's just not designed to pump forever without.
Listen, in all seriousness, I'm not engagement baiting, and it is. I think my view is a bit contrarian in our industry, in our circles, in that we all know that the cycles end at some point. At some point, there is a tipping point where it's like, all right, we get it. We don't have this speculative fervor. It's less speculative in nature and more of an asset that people want to hold and stable. And many people think that's going to happen in a couple other cycles. And that's how I think people may not get caught on the sidelines, but get caught by surprise to the upside, where I think there is a potential that it could be this cycle, this time around.
I just want to put out there that in the months leading up to the blow off tops that we've had in the last 3 bull runs that I've participated in, right? What is it? 2013, 2017, 2021. I've always thought that hyper Bitcoinization was upon us and that we've hit a new paradigm and that this time was different. The only difference here is that you are saying this literally in like inning 2 of the bull run. Like we have just barely begun to just to show you, like, there's a good chance that this one is the one that gets blamed for like taking down national economies. Like we might see like the biggest blow off top that we've ever seen in Bitcoin history might be this cycle, just because people like you that are usually a little bit more well reasoned at this point in the cycle are already calling for these things.
Call out where my reasoning is off.
I think if your argument is this time is different, it behooves the person who's arguing that this time is different is actually different. Like I think it should be expected that.
Did we have the U.S. government with the strategic Bitcoin reserve last time?
By the way, I think that we do actually see the strategic Bitcoin reserve as an executive order before June 15th per our last bet.
So you just want to pay me out now?
I mean, we specifically said a bill. Like I think if you go back to the tapes, we were talking about a congressional bill, not an executive order. But as a friend, if we get an executive order, I will still happily pay you out. I mean, that would be the most.
It's good to know.
I mean, I think I'll be having quite a good day if the U.S. government, however they announces that they're going to stack 1 million Bitcoin.
Is that different than last time? Last cycle?
What?
Would that be different?
I think that would be different, yeah. But like history doesn't repeat. It tends to rhyme.
And what is the rhyme from last cycle that is akin to it?
The rhyme from last cycle is that we have Michael Saylor already talking about yield and like getting yield on Bitcoin and pitching it to as many suits as possible.
That's not, that is a mischaracterization of what he's pitching. He's pitching yield of MicroStrategy shares denominated in Bitcoin.
Marty, you got to put your Bitcoin to work. Don't you know this?
He's not saying that. He's saying we can get more Bitcoin per share by enacting this convertible note strategy. And
where does the yield come from?
It comes from the ability to buy Bitcoin using cash raised from a convertible note. The price of Bitcoin between when that convertible note converts from debt to equity, like allowing you to increase your Bitcoin per share. The price of Bitcoin goes up, the price of MicroStrategy share goes up, it then converts to equity, and the result of that new dilutive equity being distributed to shareholders, despite the fact that it is technically dilutive, after that equity conversion, you have more Bitcoin per share. And that is I think that he's talking about.
In addition to that, he's also trying to get yield on his Bitcoin.
Don't try it, Michael. It's not going to work out well for you.
Didn't he say that on Safe? Like he's trying to get 5% yield on his Bitcoin?
Yeah, I think he was battle testing the idea and got shot down pretty aggressively, pretty quickly.
Okay, well, there's going to be the suits are going to play insane degeneracy games. Bitcoin is going to get more and more intertwined with our already incredibly fragile macro environment, and there will be a blow off top. Like I expect there to be one, and if there's not, I'm not going to be trading it. So like that I would love if there's no blow off top. That would be phenomenal. But I think it's a cheap engagement trick to say that it's the end of cycle.
I don't appreciate this cheap engagement trick accusation. It's not for engagement. It's don't go lever long. Stay humble, stack sats. I'm just saying things have changed. The multivariate situation is new variables have been introduced to the equation.
Don't big word the freaks. We have someone. We have Dylan in the Nostra live chat asking who is up most on their bets, Marty or Matt. I think we're like pretty much even. Like I think we just keep passing the chips back and forth to each other.
I think we are
right.
Yeah.
I mean, you can check the tapes; they're all there. But the big one we have outstanding is the mempool never clearing again, which is a 4-year bet at 1 million sats. So,
It's That's what I'm reading a tweet right now. Mike Germano. Let's face it, Peter McCormick's exit from the Bitcoin space has left a noticeable gap in the space, and so far, no one new or seasoned has stepped up to fill it.
Yeah, it's not going to be Mike. I love you, Mike, but it's not going to be Mike Germano. That's for sure.
I don't think he's trying to do it.
I think Peter's got to be heavily regretting his pivot.
I say this out of love, Peter. It was terrible timing.
I know a couple people are. Attempting to fill it. I think there's going to be one person that's going to do quite a good job, but I don't think he's ready to announce yet. It should be soon.
Who?
He's not ready to announce yet. I'm not going to
tell me in Signal.
But I think obviously RHR is not the what Bitcoin did demographic. We're more the ride or dies, so it's definitely not us. I think the key difference with all these, I would put Peter in the Joy Reid and Don Lemon camp because these people want to be influencers. Like they want as many people to blindly follow them as possible. And for that, you need network effect. Like it's incredibly important. For me, I'm completely fine burning the boats. I'm like at this part of my Bitcoin journey that really the ride or dies are all that really matter to me. So,
agreed. It is funny. Yeah, the timing of it. The fact that you called him the Joy Reid and Don Lemon of Bitcoin is very funny. With that being said, for all the ride or dies that have joined us in the live stream and who are listening after we posted it to the RSS feed, let's jump into the show. Let's go to Clark's dashboard. Current price of Bitcoin is 89,570 cuck bucks. One cuck buck is going to get you 1,116 sats. We're sitting at a $1.77 trillion market cap. We are only 4% away from the all-time high, which was set yesterday, 93,360 cuck bucks. We are at block height 870,309, which means we are 603 blocks away from the next difficulty retarget, which, interestingly enough, as of right now, is looking like a negative adjustment of 0.5%. Blocks have been coming in at 10 minutes and 4 seconds on average since the last difficulty adjustment, which I think we skipped over last week. And since we skipped over it, the last difficulty adjustment was an upward 6.2% adjustment. There are currently 186,265 transactions in Clark's mempool. If we go over to mempool.space, we'll see that they have 268,471 transactions in their mempool. And despite the fact that the price has been going up rapidly, and people have been very focused on Bitcoin this week, fees are pretty reasonable. 18 sats per VByte for high priority transactions, 17 sats per VByte for medium priority, and 15 sats per VByte for low priority transaction. That is the state of the network.
It's pretty sad how empty mempools have been during this price run.
It is interesting, isn't it? When do we get to 3-digit sats per cuck buck?
When self-custody improves.
I don't think that's gonna. I think we'll get there before that happens. But
it's got to be a metric that points to.
Oh, you think I said 3-digit sats per VByte? I'm talking about sats per cuck buck. When do we?
Oh.
When does Moscow time go to 3 digits?
Marty, did I say on the show that the Argentinian peso is at sat peso parity?
You didn't. You told the story of the Cuevas.
When you go to the Cuevas or whatever, if you give them like 1 million sats, you get 1 million. I mean, you give them a million sats, you get 1 million pesos. Like that's
sat
a mind
peso
fuck.
parity. Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
That's where we're going with dollars too. Like eventually 1 million sats will buy you $1 million. And yes, that is a nonchalant $100 million per Bitcoin call. I think it's going to take a couple.
You engagement whore.
I think it's going to take a couple blow off tops before we get there. That's all.
Okay. You heard it here first. $100 million per Bitcoin, Matt Odell.
We'll make that the title next. What is the current sats per dollar? We're really close to 3 digits.
It's 1,112.
Yeah, that should happen pretty soon, I think.
Yeah,
I'm feeling
quite bulled up.
I could run through a fucking wall right now.
Yeah, I mean, talking about bullishness, Bitcoin surpassed silver as the 8th largest asset in the world.
That's a big one. That's a big for especially for boomers. That really hits them. It hits them right where they hold their silver.
What is that site where all that's being tracked? Assets ranked by market cap. Currently, still number 8. We briefly surpassed Saudi Aramco, which is at number 7 at a $1.804 trillion market cap. We briefly passed them yesterday.
I think it's a little bit weird comparing it to equities, but like the silver is a nice apples to apples comparison. Like silver is a big deal, and then what is gold? Like gold, we'd have to be at like 850,000 per coin or something to flip gold.
Just a humble 17x from here. It's 17, or not even a 17x, like an 8.5x from here.
Yeah, way less than 17x. Are you doing math at 100K Bitcoin yet?
No, not yet. Not quite yet.
A nice round number. You just round up and do the math from there. It's a 8.5x.
Yeah. But going back to this, I mean, it is pretty crazy. Just surpassed silver, which has been used as money, as a monetary good for thousands of years, has millennia of Lindy built up, and Bitcoin in 16 short years has surpassed silver as a monetary asset with authority. We've got Saudi Aramco, and if we're looking at the largest assets in the world, which include gold and silver, Bitcoin's at number 8. In front of us, we have Saudi Aramco, Alphabet, aka Google, Amazon, Microsoft, Apple, and NVIDIA. And we're about 2x away from leapfrogging all those and just sitting behind gold for a period of time.
Imagine owning NVIDIA shares and not Bitcoin.
I mean, in fairness, I think it's performed pretty well compared to Bitcoin over the last couple of years. But yes, moving forward, if you just have NVIDIA.
Do you think NVIDIA's in a super cycle, or do you think that's going to have a blow off top?
Nah, I think that may be in the process of a blow up top, It's up 204% year to date. Yeah, if you look at the 5-year, it's up 2,777%.
Shout out Mav21, Ride or Die Freak in the Nostra stream, which you can access at rhr.tv/stream, has zapped us 21,000 sats. He's the highest zapper today so far. I wonder if he'll be topped.
We'll see. Got to create some competition there. Just had a 500 sat zap come in on zap.stream. Join us there. Next up on the list, getting to more serious topics, Bitcoin Fog user Roman Sterlingov gets 12.5 years for allegedly running Bitcoin Fog based on quote-unquote junk science. We've been talking about this case for the better part of 2 years now, and it's really unfortunate to see that the court has decided to throw Roman Sterlingov in a cage based off of chain surveillance data that was black box and not really substantial, I think we would argue.
Yeah, I mean, Trump should pardon him. And not that I've heard anything to that effect, but it'd be great to see. I mean, specifically, Roman has admitted to using Bitcoin Fog, right? So Bitcoin Fog is one of these custodial mixers, right? So you send them Bitcoin and they send you someone else's Bitcoin. So all users of custodial mixers are relatively easily tagged on the blockchain, on this ledger of transactions, right? Because you literally send your funds in and you get different funds back out. And that link on chain is fairly obvious, but the idea is that the link between your original funds and your new funds is not, right? It breaks that probability analysis. And so from my understanding of this case, they don't have, really anything concrete that says that he was actually the operator of Bitcoin Fog and not the user, as he admits. Their main piece of evidence, my understanding, is that he took some Bitcoin Fog funds and sent it to his KYC Kraken account.
Yeah, Logan, scroll down and pull up the flow of activity chart.
And then, meanwhile, Meanwhile, Chain Analysis is running a completely closed system. They won't even let the defense verify any of these claims or look at the software themselves, which seems to me completely unconstitutional. Like, that's fucking insane. Once again, not a lawyer, definitely not a constitutional lawyer. So the defense says that they're going to appeal this case, but from where I look at it, basically any Bitcoiner could be in Roman shoes. You can just use this quote, like, I think No Bullshit Bitcoin did a good job calling it junk science. You could use this, junk science, black box bullshit to implicate anybody that uses Bitcoin and transacts with it that you don't like. Because it's just, at the end of the day, it's guesswork, right? It's probability analysis. So pretty sad to see. Oh, one last piece that seems highly relevant is that Bitcoin Fog is still operating. They've had him in jail for years.
Pretty relevant.
And the website is still, the service is still operating, which is crazy.
Yeah, and we'll read what the U.S. attorney said. As proven at trial, Roman Sterlingov created and used an online tool to process hundreds of millions of illegal transactions, enabling darknet drug dealers and those who sell child sexual abuse material to operate. Today's sentence sends an unmistakable message. Those who help criminals with online payments for their illegal activities will face serious penalties. This prosecution also provides more proof that we have the skilled investigators and talented prosecutors needed to hold those who operate these darknet sites accountable. U.S. Attorney Matthew M. Graves for the District of Columbia said that in a press release, and I think what Laurent is saying from OXT Research is very important. This is very disturbing, that the scientific method has been completely ignored while considering that hearsay or anecdotal evidence of past successes are replacement for tracking false positives and negatives. Yeah, Lola has some thoughts here too. Lola Leitz from The Rage. The government is now seizing the little Bitcoin he has left while the billions of dollars he allegedly made operating Bitcoin Fog continue to remain unaccounted for. Another important detail, if he was running it, where is the money he made from running it? The entire case is a grave miscarriage of justice and another stepping stone in the U.S. government's war on financial privacy.
Yeah, Lola's doing great work. Her site is therage.co. I did chuckle a little to myself, though. One of her posts was like, I don't mean to rain on your guys' parade, but they're using Ross's case as a precedent here for the Roman trial. And her favorite thing to do is rain on parades. So, it's like that's literally her MO. But it's important. It's important that we have people that are still skeptical and still pushing back in a big way and covering all this stuff, because I feel like Bitcoiners, in a lot of ways, is when we're most vulnerable, is when the price is skyrocketing, right? We're all bulled up and excited. And then meanwhile, all this stuff, all this bad shit is happening behind the scenes. And we all kind of just turn a blind eye to it, because what gets the engagement is someone in all caps saying that the supercycle is upon us.
Never put it in all caps.
You haven't put it in all caps yet. I saw your 80K first. Marty, you've been like playing around with this. You've been dipping your toes in. You saw.
I don't want to hear it from you. Look at the pot calling the kettle black right now, Mr. 200K by conference day in 2019. Get out of here. I don't want to hear it.
You saw 200K by conference day last cycle, and you wanted your own.
That was 2 cycles ago.
And you, by the way, I repented for, because I said I reminded everyone to stay humble and stack sats every morning for 280 days during the generational bottom. So I've repented, and I'm going to be better in my ways. I'm not admitting I wasn't at fault. But you danced around with it in the beginning of this cycle by saying there'd be no more dumps, and then that got adjusted to there'll be no more greater than 20% corrections. And then we hit the 20% corrections, and then you pretended that didn't happen, and then you said 80K by election day, which was directionally correct but still wrong. But you said it in all caps. I saw it in all caps. And
how can you see it if you're not on Twitter? This is interesting.
You posted it on Noster in all caps, 80K by election day.
It's true.
And now the super cycle's upon us. So you've been like, dipping your toes in. I've been watching it play out. We have Marin Real One zapped us 100,000 sats. Thank you, Marin.
Marin, that is
new highest zapper of the day.
Very generous of you, Marin. Appreciate you. Moving along. down the list, OpenSats long-term support for Mr. Cool Guy.
Love to see it. He works. He's the lead maintainer of the Fedimint Lightning Gateway. So it's the way that Fedimints are able to interact with other Fedimints and the greater Lightning network. So it's a key aspect of Fedimint. And he's also being, for what it's worth, he's also being supported by Spiral. So this is one of. It's becoming more frequent where OpenSats is co-funding with other organizations.
It's great to see. Mr. Cool Guy said, my goals is to improve Fedimint's Lightning user experience and to bridge the functionality between federated Ecash and the Lightning network. I want Lightning gateways to be an easy tool for node operators to use to expand the utility of their Lightning node and to provide Lightning payments for their community. Great to see. Great to see. Next up, the Mutiny team. Right outside the hall here. Actually, I don't think they're in today, but they were here yesterday.
Bring them in.
After their announcement. They announced what they're doing now. Obviously, if you've been listening to the show, you know that they shuttered the Mutiny wallet and decided to pivot towards something else, and they announced that yesterday. OpenSecret. Matt and I have been aware of this project for some time now. Really excited to see them get it to market. And essentially, they've been alluding to this, but they learned a lot of lessons building Mutiny wallet and privacy best practices, not only into the wallet and how people interact with Bitcoin via Mutiny wallet, but their backend systems as well to ensure that they have the best privacy practices for their company. And so they're taking what they learned building Mutiny wallet and the backend infrastructure they set up and have decided everybody should be using this type of infrastructure. So this is what OpenSecret is bringing to market.
Yeah, I mean, to be clear, it's not just privacy, it's also security. So like building these things from a security and privacy foundation, and that foundation is basically all the important shit should be client side, should be local on your device, which is how they built that Mutiny wallet. So the idea is basically they can provide this tech to Bitcoin companies, but also non-Bitcoin companies that have sensitive personal information and private keys, and host that locally rather than in the cloud, so that hopefully we will be able to eventually stop this trend of just ever increasing data leaks and compromises among large tech companies.
Yeah, and their first proof of concept of leveraging the OpenSecret backend tools is Maple AI. I believe it's trymaple.ai is the URL if you want to get on the wait list there. But they're essentially proving part of their value prop, which is leveraging the secure enclave on GPUs to make it so that you can use these large language models with a degree of privacy.
Yeah. So huge shout to Tony, Paul, and Marks, and not Ben, because Ben's at Taproot Wizard. But huge shout out to the three gents that remain standing. I know it's a long time coming, and they're pretty excited about it.
Ben, I'll stand up for you. I'm a man of integrity. And Ben is still a friend. He's in the Commons, still running BitDevs here in Austin, doing good things. Don't know what he's doing at Taproot Wizards. I do hear that they have to wear wizard hats on calls sometimes, though, which is pretty embarrassing. Next up on the list, Block announces Proto mining division. This is coming after some announcements about consolidation of the businesses. TBD has been sort of shelved. They're stepping back from title as well and really leaning into mining.
Well, TBD was completely shelved, and I think none of the mining stuff is new. That's under Proto, but I think it was I might be mistaken, but I think it might have been under TBD, and now it's its own thing, Proto mining, right? So you can find information at proto.xyz. Title, I'm pretty sure they're still doing title. They've just cleaned house over there.
Yeah. That's why I tried.
Which I hope they're actually still doing title, because Jack, if you're listening, I switched over from Spotify. My whole family switched over from Spotify per your request. So, like, can you make the app better? Like I don't want to switch again. I would like to not switch again.
Yeah. I'm still on Spotify. I don't know what to say.
I want Nostr and Lightning integrated into Tidal. I've been promised things.
If that happens, maybe I'll go over to Tidal. We've got
I don't
some
know.
big breaking.
Spotify's like the evil fucking empire, man. How can you support? I already wanted to leave Spotify, and then I had an excuse, so I left.
Is it the evil empire? I mean,
yeah, ask Adam Curry about it.
Some Swedish company. They haven't really been able to do anything with their podcast efforts. I think they burnt a lot of money doing that.
Spotify's if you try to be the evil empire and you're just not very effective at it, you're still the evil empire.
Okay. Got breaking news from Bitcoin Magazine. Gary Gensler released a statement suggesting he may be leaving the SEC. Before I close, I want to say something about the SEC and its staff. It's a remarkable agency. The staff and commission are deeply mission-driven, focused on protecting investors, maintaining fair, orderly, and efficient markets, and facilitating capital formation. The lawyers, accountants, economists, policy experts, and other staff generally could make more money working somewhere else. They choose, though, to work on behalf of the public here at the SEC. It's been a great honor to serve with them, doing the people's work and ensuring with our capital markets remain the best in the world. Conclusion, Sam and Jane Gensler, my mom and dad, never worked in finance or even completed college. When they invested their savings, our family benefited from the securities markets, common sense rules of the road. The SEC's effective administration of well-regulated securities markets promotes trust. It's what brings investors and issuers to the market like fans to a football game. It's what underpins the world's largest capital markets. It's what has contributed to our nation's great economic success these last 90 years. I've been proud to serve with my colleagues at the SEC who day in and day out work to protect American families.
Is he resigning?
On the highways. I was waiting for the comment about him leaving. It didn't really get there. Maybe there was a slight allusion to it.
What is the announcement that he's resigning?
He may be leaving the SEC. I don't know. It sounds like a goodbye letter.
Tinsley, I appreciate you using the Nostr live chat, but fuck you. Everyone just figured out the vulnerability. If you just type
I will read the breaking news.
If you just type massive breaking into the Nostr live chat, Marty will read whatever you link to. Is Tinsley didn't even provide a zap with the you just clicked the link and just immediately blindly started reading whatever was posted. So is he resigning or not? Like, is that
I don't know. I don't know. That didn't make it any clearer. It sounded like a goodbye letter.
I just want to be clear. Like, that's not a. I mean, Gary.
That's not breaking worthy.
Also, Gary is not like I'm like the farthest thing from like a single issue voter on Gary Gensler. Like, he hasn't, been horrible for Bitcoin. He doesn't really affect the aspects of Bitcoin that I care about. That's more of like a crypto. Like all the tokens that the SEC has been going after, they really hate Gary.
Agreed. He's been good. He's been pretty consistent with Bitcoin. It's a commodity.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not pro Gary or anti Gary. Do we know? Oh yeah, thank you, Mooney. You clicked Marty. You haven't zapped today. You stopped posting on Nostr, huh? There's been
I posted yesterday.
There's been a resurgence on X post election. I see it. It's fine. We'll either be successful with Nostr or we won't, but we're not going to complain about it. We're just going to try and build the future we want to see.
I like it. I'm out there. I'll zap right now. Freaks.
It's okay. You don't have to. Like, it's not worth. I don't want you to zap if you don't mean it. Like, you should actually mean it. It shouldn't just be a throwaway zap.
I mean, people sharing Guy Swan content on Nostr, that's zappable. Zapped.
There you go.
Refresh the page, Logan.
But I can't believe that. That was literally a breaking of nothing, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we covered it.
That was bad breaking. More importantly, the real topics that Matt puts on the list before we congregate here on our dirty corner of the internet. Italy is going to water down its 42% cryptocurrency capital gains tax proposal. believe it's knocking it back down to 28%, if I recall correctly. Still not great. Capital gains tax. How did you describe it the other week? It was a great description of capital gains tax, savings tax.
Yeah, it's a tax on savings.
Yeah.
Incredibly predatory. I mean, and the other thing is Italy doesn't have, unlike America, Italy doesn't have an exit tax. So, and I'm not a proponent of exit taxes. I think those are incredibly predatory. But if you try and do predatory savings taxes without an exit tax, people are going to leave your fucking country. So I think they realized that was probably a bad idea to scare off, incredibly productive young individuals, predominantly young individuals in their country, and push them to neighboring countries such as Switzerland that are literally a hop, skip, and a jump away. Like you literally just get in a car or a train and you're there. And because it's EU, you don't even have to do, there's like no border process or anything.
Yeah, there's no visa.
You literally just pack up your bags and like, let's be honest, like a lot of the Bitcoin people just have like 3 bags. They fill up a carry-on and they like leave their empty house and then they get into a train and they end up on the other side. So
yeah, particularly bad move from Italy too. If you understand the economic situation of the pigs countries, Italy being one of those, not great. And so you want to incentivize the smart, productive, well-off individuals in your country not to leave. So a quick about face by the Italian government here. Signals they're in big trouble too. They're like, we need money. Let's put a 42% cap gains tax. Oh wait, all the money's going to leave. Let's walk that back to the drawing board. What can we do?
Tinsley's in the comments saying it's massive and that I'm coping. I still don't understand why the news was massive. But I mean, if he doesn't resign, he's getting fired on day one. It's already been decided.
If you cope but you don't seethe, is it that bad?
Yeah, I mean, I think coping is bad if you're not acknowledging cope. Mm-hmm. It just I would bucket it in with just broader hypocrisy, which is a pretty on my like list of things that frustrate me. I'd put that up there.
Was this Gary's version of "You're not firing me, I quit"? He gets to say he quit now. He wasn't fired. Maybe that's what's happening here.
He's going to resign, but it was it was so long-winded. Was he talking about like baseball games and shit? I don't know.
People flock to the capital markets like they do a football game. What?
Yeah.
My parents, they didn't go to college, but they put their money in the markets and
I stopped paying attention. It just kept going on and on.
Gary Gensler. Nobody cares about your crocodile tears. People may care, though. If you're using Bitkey, they partnered with blockchain.com and Azteco to provide more on-ramps to Bitcoin. As we know, they've been partnered with Cash App and Coinbase, adding more Bitcoin on-ramps to their suite of on-ramps, blockchain.info and Azteco.
This is awesome. I mean,
what are our thoughts on blockchain.com? Are we big fans?
I mean, blockchain.com is a fucking horrible company and no one should use it. But I respect that. I feel similarly about Coinbase. I mean, I would actually rank Coinbase above blockchain.com. That's how low I rate blockchain.com. But I respect the fact that the Bitkey team is trying to make it on-ramp, off-ramp agnostic, right? Like if you want to leave the Bitcoin world to enter the fiat world, they want you to have many different options, and Bitkey's not trying to pick and choose them for you. I think Azteco is a great addition because Azteco is global, and people without bank accounts can easily use it. Right? It works similar to the way that billions of people top up their phones. So you just go into a local store and you give them cash, or vice versa, and you're able to. And maybe is Azteco buy only? Can you actually sell on Azteco?
I don't.
Can you go the opposite direction?
If we know Beauty on it all, I don't think he would.
My guess is
to sell Bitcoin. Why would he allow people to sell the better technology?
I mean, look, at this point, I guess because you're just like forcing my hand that I like become like the quote unquote bearish person on the show. Like I have 99%.
It's been a crazy transformation to watch you.
Just flip it on me. I mean, all of my family's savings are in Bitcoin. So there are things I can't spend using Bitcoin. And in those situations I have to sell them for dollars or pesos first, like in order to actually buy the things my family needs. So until we get to the point of the adoption cycle where I can just pay for literally everything with Bitcoin directly, then that is absolutely necessary. But yeah, anyway, shout out to the Bitkey team. It's cool to see them just continually add different partners there for that fiat side of the equation, whether you're coming into Bitcoin or you're leaving. I would say that like the timing of Bitkey, I'm sure there's some frustration among their team about the rollout, because I think you just always are frustrated when you're trying to roll out something novel and new, particularly in like an emerging ecosystem. But Bitkey couldn't have been better timed. Now more than ever, entering this new stage of nation state FOMO and mass suit adoption of Bitcoin, we need a really easy way for the Charles Schwab crowd to hold keys themselves. And I think Bitkey really represents that. And hopefully they can actually get that cost even lower. And then it opens it up to an even broader base of people.
Completely agree. Shout out to Bitkey. I think we'll see more Bitcoin only options on that Buy Bitcoin list.
I mean, there's only so many. I would like to see Strike there. I don't know what the conversation is happening over there. I mean, look, at the end of the day, if you're using Strike or a River or something, you can still just use their app and then send to your Bitkey. Like it uses the interoperable Bitcoin network. So the difference is like having the button in the app.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is that substantial, but I understand the UX benefits. But yeah, I mean, I think, let me put it this way. Like, I'm way down the fucking rabbit hole, and my security expectations are way higher than something that like the Bitkey offers, particularly on the privacy side as well. But for the average person, like the Bitkey is the first hardware device, is the first self-custody method, period, that I could just recommend to my dad and not have to hold his hand to set it up, right? It's really, really hard to lose your money. You have to like actually try to lose your money, and you still probably won't lose it in that situation. That's the trade-off balance they made. So
easy to use, hard to lose.
I'm glad it's on the market, and I'm glad it's available out there for people.
Shout out to Bitkey. Next up, Human Rights Foundation story of the week, coming from Burma. International payment services suspended for Citizens Perfect Monday and Payoneer. Two of Burma's largest international payment providers announced they would suspend services for citizens in Burma. These payment providers are used extensively by Burmese citizens earning income online and abroad. Their sudden exit, prompted by local banking limitations and regulations imposed by the military junta. I was corrected a couple of weeks ago for saying junta. Will leave many Burmese disconnected from the global economy and their income sources. This will not only impact freelancers and content creators, but also risk isolating activists and civil society organizations receiving money abroad. In the face of these restrictions, Bitcoin presents a viable alternative. It enables peer-to-peer payments independent of junta-controlled banks, offering Burmese citizens a way to securely receive payments from abroad, participate in the global economy, and continue earning income absent authoritarian constraints. Hear more stories like this, make sure you subscribe to the Human Rights Foundation Financial Freedom Report at financialfreedomreport.org. We send that newsletter out every Thursday morning. Not ideal. I mean, it's
great newsletter. Yeah, no, I mean, I think this is just another case, right, where it's incredibly important to have an open protocol that does not require permission, that's not controlled by anybody, a money for the world. that is effectively free from corruption that's inherent with human control. And that's what Bitcoin represents. And as much as I say mandibles than Bitcoin standard, there are billions of people that are already living through the mandibles or already have lived through it. And I think it's hard for Americans to really conceptualize it. And I think Human Rights Foundation does a really good job of kind of trying to bridge that gap for people like me and you, right, who otherwise would not really be exposed to it otherwise.
And it is fascinating too. At TFTC, we've brought on some new people to do post-production video focused on growth, really increasing the production value of the clips that we put out there. And Ed, who we brought on, he's got a team of people working under him that are scattered throughout the world, and we pay them in Bitcoin. And I think bringing it up, because that was the interesting thing, is freelancers, contractors living abroad. It wasn't even a question of what's your bank account, how do you want to receive this money. It was just like Bitcoin first automatically. It didn't even have to ask. And I think that was I don't want to say shocking, but it was a positive validation of what we've been talking about for years. It's like, for many freelancers across the world, particularly doing content stuff, Bitcoin first is already out there.
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
really encouraging to see.
I mean, for OpenSats, we're providing, I think, a little bit over 200 grants right now to 40 plus countries, all in Bitcoin. Like, imagine if we had to do wires to 40 different countries. Like, I don't even know if it's possible in most of the countries. But even if it is possible, it's a complete fucking pain in the ass and incredibly antiquated, while Bitcoin is very easy to do securely. And I think anyone who actually is doing any kind of cross-border commerce realizes this pretty quickly. The traditional system just fails left and right in those scenarios, particularly for individuals. You know, if you're not a large company or something that has some kind of established channels that you're using. But even these large companies, like we've seen, I've been, privy to conversations where there's massive multinational corporations that have trouble getting money out of certain countries, that turn to Bitcoin as the means to do those transactions.
Yeah, and this is, I mean, the example I just laid out is above board, paying contractors to do work, but it highlights like Bitcoin has to succeed at these edge cases like Burma, where the military junta is erecting laws in the banking system that prevents individuals from even accessing the traditional fiat system if they wanted to, and Bitcoin existing in a peer-to-peer distributed fashion, enabling individual Burmese citizens to simply download some software and completely avoid that regulatory hurdle that the military junta has just erected is incredibly satisfying, incredibly important, and it works. And I would be interested to learn from the Human Rights Foundation what Bitcoin penetration in Burma is and what it will look like moving forward with these new regulations.
I mean, I've seen time and time again that when people have a need, they figure out how to satisfy that need. So it's to me, it's very much an iron sharpens iron thing. But we need the tools to be better. We need education to be better, particularly in different languages, not just English. But we're getting there, slow and steady. I see a comment from a freak in the Nostra live chat, My Path to Fire, asking what 1031 is, because Marty and I are wearing our 1031 hats. 1031 is the largest Bitcoin venture fund in the world, and Marty and I are partners of it. We invest in profitable Bitcoin businesses. And you can find out more information at 1031.vc.
We need to get to the point where 1031 is just brand. People hear it, they're like, oh, I know exactly what that is.
I know. I was surprised to see the question. That's why I felt like answering it.
We're working on it. We're working on it.
And by the way, that it's for Bitcoin's birthday. October 31st is what it's named after. We could have we could have named it Gillum.
You could tell. Wait. You could tell
Odell
how.
and Ben.
You could tell how hardcore Bitcoiners we are. The fact that we're not even cognizant of the 1031 real estate. I mean, we were probably cognizant of it, but didn't think twice about naming the fund.
It has nothing. It has nothing to do with the 1031 tax swap that you can do in the real estate Ponzi market.
Everybody thinks we're a real estate firm. We're gonna work on that too. We're gonna make 1031 synonymous with Bitcoin and not the tax advantage real estate transfer laws.
I'm being told my eyes are overshadowed and they don't look nice in the video, but I like wearing a hat. So
I wanted to fix it, but I felt like it gave you like this anonymous look.
Yeah, I like it. P, I like it.
Can you hear Paul in the background?
Yeah,
it's intentional, freaks. Deal with it.
Paul
is our great producer we have here at Bitcoin Park.
Logan, have you ever talked to Paul? Do you have beef with Paul?
He's
Logan's pretty pissed off.
He's responsible for this fantastic video quality that you see whenever the few moments that I'm in town in our studio.
Marty's trying to start shit.
I want some inter-producer beef here.
Let's go.
I'm kidding.
Competition's good. Competition's good. It lifts all boats.
Competition's good, and overcoming adversity is very important in life. I'm doing that right now. For some reason, the list isn't downloading on my desktop Signal app, so I have to pull up my phone and read the rest of the list here. Overcoming adversity, it's what we do. We improvise, we move, we get the work done. We got to get you freaks the information. You were talking about Bitcoin tools, making them more mature. One of the most important tools that we have in the developer space within Bitcoin is Bitcoin Dev Kit. And the team has provided the world with a Q3 update, explaining what they've been up to, mainly polishing the API of their BDK wallet.
Are you gonna read the whole thing?
We'll read the bullet points. Here are some of the notable changes and upgrades to the software libraries we maintain. RBF by default on TX Builder, new wallet builder API, MVP of the book of BDK. That'll be very important. Bug chasing and optimizations and development of a CBF client crate and related bindings. Very important work by the BDK team. A lot of them are located in the building that you're at now, Matt. How's the BDK team doing?
Steve Myers specifically, who's lead maintainer, is doing a huge project here right now, trying to self-host a bunch of things for Bitcoin Park on premise. And if I didn't include this update in the list, I would have greatly disappointed him. So it's important to have you. I mean, the BDK project, jokes aside, is an incredible building block that many wallets are using to build out Bitcoin tools in a much easier and much more secure way. So shout out to everyone that's working on it. And you guys have made fantastic progress over the last 2 years.
Yeah, extremely important. Thankless work a lot of the time. We want to take the time to thank you guys for building this. Very important. I mean, we talked about Mutiny earlier. They wouldn't have been able to build their wallet without BDK. Many other teams are highly dependent on this software.
I think we've covered what could be one of the largest self-custody wallets in the world at some point in the future, which is Proton Wallet by the Proton Mail team, and they use BDK.
Yeah. Speaking of wallet development kits, Tether came out of nowhere this week and released the Tether wallet development kit. This was pretty cool to see. Imagine a world where both humans and machines had the freedom to control their own finances. WDK by Tether is fully open source, self-custodial toolkit designed to build the most advanced mobile and desktop wallet experiences. Modular, independent, and resilient. This is the WDK that puts power back into the hands of developers and their creations.
Dude is like legit Ron Burgundy. We'll just read anything that's in front of him. They definitely build a really nice website. The website is slick as fuck. To everyone out there that's like, oh, like what is this, a Tether podcast now? The development kit is designed to make it easy to build a Bitcoin and Tether wallet combined. So it has a key Bitcoin component there. And regardless of how you feel about Tether, it is incredibly used. Incredibly used is the wrong word. It is it is heavily used. It is heavily used in many countries around the world. When I was in the Cuevas in Argentina, probably the majority of their transactions are Tether. And unfortunately, we don't really have any good Bitcoin wallets that do both. Usually, like the most popular wallet in the world, period, in terms of self-custody wallet is Trust Wallet, which is maintained by Binance. It's this horrible self-custody wallet that supports Tether, Bitcoin, and pretty much every coin in existence. Has a really, really bad UX that is focused on quote-unquote Web3 and Ethereum, and has really bad Bitcoin support. It doesn't even support Lightning. So I think there's a huge hole in the market for a wallet that is very strong on the Bitcoin side, a first-class Bitcoin wallet that also gives you the ability to send and receive using Tether. And there have been some attempts at it, but I think they're all sorely lacking right now. They're not quite there yet. So hopefully this leads to more development on that front.
Yeah. Shout out to that. Somebody just called me 3 times and doesn't seem that important.
JPAC in the... Wait, someone called you 3 times and you don't think it's important?
No.
As long as it's not your wife, it's not important.
I'm going on a show tomorrow. I think it's the producer looking for some details.
Okay, well, tell him you're currently on a show and he's a producer, so he should understand. I have JPAC in the comments saying it's called Aqua Wallet. Like, Aqua Wallet is not there yet. I can hardly recommend it. One thing Aqua Wallet did get right is that you can send and receive Tether on any chain, right? Because the most commonly used Tether is Tron Tether. When you're at the Cuevas, that's what they expect. They expect Tron Tether. But it's just not a great UX. It's kind of unreliable, and from my testing is just not something I can comfortably recommend to people. But they're in the right direction. They're in the right direction, and I think the market is ripe for something like that. That is, whether it's them or someone else, that is very reliable, has low fees, right? They use Bolts, the Bolt swap service, and me and Marty played a poker game where someone was using Aqua Wallet, and like at the end of the day, it was like a 5% haircut, not advertised fee, and presumably it's because it went both ways, I guess, from like Lightning to Liquid or whatever. But that's a big haircut. That's a big haircut for people, and particularly in the developing world, that are really, counting their sats. So if there is going to be a significant fee, it should be disclosed as well, I would say. But that direction, I really like that direction, where the idea basically being that at rest you're holding Bitcoin, but you're able to easily send and receive Tether. Maybe even I would say you probably should be able to hold Tether in the wallet as well, because a lot of people want to do that and would rather use a good wallet than a bad wallet to do it.
Yeah. Be aware. Trade-offs of holding Tether, centrally controlled stablecoin. We've talked about this for 6 years. Tether's whatever topic we're not going to have to talk about on their show. Probably not. I do like to see the development kit, and I do like the fact that they're leaning into machine payable web too.
They're big on that. I mean, Tether leadership, at least. Yeah. I mean, that's where we're heading, right? How's the AI going to pay each other? Probably Sats.
Yeah.
Not Tether, but maybe in the meantime, Tether.
Yeah. Beware, freaks. Can you KYC the AI? I don't know.
I've never used. I've never actually used Tether. I actually did test out Aqua Wallet recently and did like the swap thing. And it didn't really work that well.
I don't think I've ever used Tether either. Next up on the list, Nunchuk Android version 1.9.54 and iOS version 1.9.58 and desktop version 1.9.40 have been released. They now support COLDCARD as an inheritance key, add the option to send all remaining for batch transactions, along with various fixes and improvements. Great to see Nunchuk. Great project in the space. Shout out to Hugo and team.
Slow and steady improving.
Yeah. COLDCARD
Love
is an
to-
inheritance key. Good to see. Cashu.me has released improvements. Guess what? I get to boost again. Open up the Primal, Kali. Announce the updates. You can show the USD price when paying a Lightning invoice from a Bitcoin mint. Price must be turned on in the settings. QR scanner now also supports BIP21 unified addresses. That's great to see.
So I put this in the list because I think it's a good example of how anyone could be the change they want to see in the world by just using these things and providing feedback. So I've been using Cashu.me, which is this PWA, right? You don't download an app. It runs in your browser on your phone. And it's a Cashu wallet, right? It's an Ecash wallet. And I've been using it as one of my main wallets in terms of spending. And I was using it in South America when I was on this recent trip. And I ran into these two issues, right? I ran into the issue that when I scanned an invoice, it didn't tell me what the current USD price was. So it was like hard for me to do like a quick verification that I was actually sending the amount of money I wanted to send. And I tried to scan a unified invoice and it failed. Like I had to manually delete the on-chain portion of it. Like a unified address shows both the on-chain, you can pay via on-chain or pay via Lightning. And it was failing in the scanner. And I basically, all I did was, I don't deserve really any credit for this. I just told Kali that
you're trying to get the credit for it, I can tell.
No. And I told him I had these issues. And like within a day or two, it was shipped and out to everybody, right? And my point is I think that's quite a low bar. Like all you have to do is use the things and provide feedback, and you can actually make these things a lot better. So pretty much every developer out there working on open source software welcomes this feedback, and you can be a part of that process. So consider it.
No, I fully endorse that message, and shout out to you for
No,
improving.
I don't want the shout out.
You want it. I'm gonna give it to you. Yeah, you deserve it. No, and it is not my daily driver for a while, but it is what we're using for my son's allowance, and it's great.
Isn't it awesome?
He's got a
It's
little
so
tablet
clean.
that he never uses. He only uses it for Bitcoin now, but like helps me do chores on the weekend. Boom. He thinks he has 5,500 Bitcoin. He's got I pay him 5,500 sats in allowance.
You can just tell him it's pesos, because it's 1-to-1 Argentinian pesos.
He thinks he has thousands of Bitcoin. At least that's what he tells people.
Yeah, thousands of pesos. Well, it's okay because you can just tell him it's going to be a Supercycle. So
Don't worry, son.
Are your sons just running around screaming Supercycle all day in the house?
Not yet. I haven't broached the subject with them yet. It's a big sit down, gentlemen. Listen, the Supercycle's here. You got to mentally prepare. I know your brains are still forming, but yeah, you got to have this in mind as you're out there running around the playground.
I have I love that. I have Kali coming on Citadel Dispatch on this Monday at 1600 UTC. It's always a fun rip with Kali. So
Kali, we need to do a TFTC rip at some point. It's all me, not you.
Yeah, well, we're doing the Citadel Dispatch first, which is important. And but you should do a TFTC rip as well.
What are you going to talk about?
We're going to be talking about Ecash, obviously, and the greater Bitcoin ecosystem and where we are currently in terms of the environment, the development environment. I think he's been absolutely crushing it, so I'm pretty excited about it. But yeah, join us in the live chat. All the information is at citadeldispatch.com, or subscribe in your favorite podcast app, and you'll get it as soon as we finish live and unedited.
On that note, have you been, probably haven't because you're not on X, but like James O'Byrne and Justin Moon have really been talking about the inability or the changes in core, and particularly with covenants. 1, whether or not they'll get included. 2, how they're being positioned. And 3, what that means for the long-term viability of self-custody of Bitcoin and Bitcoin security in the long run. An interesting conversations beginning to bubble up around.
Well, so Steve Lee of Spiral and Lynn and one other person, I think he goes by Ren, released like an open source research paper on like how Bitcoin changes. And I had Stephen Lin on Civil Dispatch last week earlier this week. Yeah, it was Monday. It was this week. Time flies during a bull cycle. And we discussed it, but anyone can contribute. So I think James contributed to that repo, to that research. But yeah, it's a very dicey. Also, by the way, in like classic Odell fashion, is I had horrible audio and video, and that was on me. But they sounded good. I fucked up my end, and then like 3 days later, I had pretty good quality, I think. So I'm very volatile myself, but it was a good conversation, and everyone should go read that paper. Do you know where that paper is? I think it's called BCAP.
Let me go to Moneyball on X.
Consider listening to the dispatch. It was a good dispatch. I think it's an important conversation. It's github.com github.com/Bitcoin-cap is the paper, and anyone can submit their own pull requests to it, changes to it. But listen to the Civil Dispatch before you do, so you get a little bit more context. I mean, they're not necessarily proposing any changes. It's kind of just like a primer if you haven't been here on how Bitcoin consensus works, because Bitcoin consensus is it's a rough beast. It's not there's no clear way to change Bitcoin, and that's a feature, not a bug, right? The whole idea is that there's no central party in control, and it's not easy to change by default. And I think that really messes with people's heads, right? Like there's a reason why every good meme is based in reality. And there's a reason why there's a meme like, I've just discovered Bitcoin and I'm here to fix it. But really one of the key foundational value props of Bitcoin is that it's incredibly hard to change by default. And it probably gets more difficult over time.
More actors join the network. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we have like nation states joining now, right? And it's like, okay, now you need like Bhutan to agree with James O'Byrne, and that becomes a little bit more dicey.
Well, I guess we get into the go read the paper. I just gave it to Logan and put it in the show notes. But
you don't like my provocative comment that Bhutan needs to agree with James O'Byrne? I kind of like that.
Well, do that. Like, what is the threshold at which you need actors to agree? I guess that's
that's the whole point. Is like what power do stakeholders have, right? And owning Bitcoin doesn't necessarily give you more control over the network, but I don't think we all agree on this. Like, I think me and Steve don't agree. I think we agree on like 99%, but that last 1% can be
what leads to bike shedding and prevents anything from getting done, right?
It's a big 1%. I mean, I just think that the most important thing to realize is that it's incredibly hard to change, right? And that's good. That's a good thing, because if you can change Bitcoin easily, you can change it for the worse, and it can be an attack vector.
Yeah, and that's I think that's acknowledged. Certainly is very hard to change. That's good. I guess the other question that many have been asking for 2 years now, it seems like it's picking up more steam, is do we need to change it to get some desired functionalities and use cases enabled, particularly around covenants, opvault. Opvault, I've been talking to Justin Moon about opvault the last few days, and it does seem like something that everybody should want, like making exchanges unhackable, really increasing.
I don't think Michael Saylor wants it.
Why wouldn't he want it?
I don't pretend to be Michael.
Again, do we need Michael Saylor to agree? So yes, technically he would need Coinbase and the other custodians.
We talk about this at length, but I think it's probably a more It's probably a controversial opinion. But I actually, as we're like entering this new era of Bitcoin, I think we, as a community, we kind of took the wrong things from the Bitcoin 2017 hard fork attempt, which is I'm not actually there. There's something like beautifully simple about hard forks where
you're a
you
hard
don't.
fork maxi now. Ooh.
Well, no, my point and I mean, this is one of the tragedies of me deleting my X account, because I actually think I've been very consistent on this since 2017, but that's all been deleted. The the You don't have to, like, anyone can fork if they want to, and you don't have to go along with the fork. You have equal amounts of both sides. Like at the end of the day, like, yeah, there was craziness that happened around the Bcash fork. But if you had conviction, you ended up with more Bitcoin. And if you didn't have conviction, if you're quote unquote man in the coma, like you always like to say, it just didn't affect you at all. Like, it literally did not affect you at all. You could have just slept through 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 21, 22, 23, woke up in 2024, and your Bitcoin's worth $90,000 and have no idea that the hard fork happened. And you'd be completely fine. So there's particularly in contentious situations, right? Because with a soft fork, it's nice that it's backwards compatible, right? You have this backwards compatibility where if you're running an older client, you don't have to upgrade. But at the end of the day, let's use, SegWit, for example, which was not, I mean, I guess it was actually, there was a war fought over it, so it was kind of contentious, but like a Taproot, at the end of the day, like if you're using a client that's older than SegWit, you're not seeing you're not validating any SegWit transactions. You're not seeing or validating any Taproot transactions. So you're kind of, eventually you get pulled along with it. So
Yeah,
there's
if you're running
something
a full node, but like your private keys will still give you access to Bitcoin, right?
Yeah, but in both cases.
Yeah.
So, I mean, specifically in contentious situations, like I'm more and more like, just fork and see what happens. Like if BlackRock wants to do like, I mean, they're like no longer pro ESG, but for the ESG example, right? Like if they wanted to go do something, let them just go fucking fork and see what happens. To me, it's not like all this talk we've had, right? Like you could have just have a op vault hard fork and just ship it on the world, and then you can choose if you want to use it or not.
Yeah.
The whole reason they don't want to do that is because they want the entire network effect of Bitcoin, which is why the soft fork exists, which makes sense.
Yeah, the op vault example would actually be interesting if exchanges, custodians ran a hard fork with op vault enabled and then all used it. Like that's a pretty significant amount of Bitcoin economic actors.
A bad
it could be something else.
A bad soft fork that gets like pushed through by a minority that doesn't really have acceptance can actually be way, way more dangerous than a hard fork. And I just feel like there's just no open discussion about that. But I mean, that's the beauty of this research paper, right? Is that the whole point is there should be more open discussion. We should be talking through these things. Let's not just get all carried away with the Bitcoin price, and let's have the knowledge should be out there, and people should be thinking about these things.
Yeah. Go read the paper. We're going to link to it in the show notes. That's a good one. Next up we got diverted here. Maybe we'll take a little break to read the top 4 boosts from last week before we continue on with the software updates, because I will definitely forget if I don't read them right now. Rabbit Hole Recap 330, the first Bitcoin election. Top 4 boost. Number 1. Is this last coin? Are we on 331? Yeah. Number 1 from Dylan. 42,069 sats. Freaks, join us at the Space in Denver, Colorado for launch week. We have a technical mining meetup tonight, November 14th. A screening of Dirty Coin tomorrow evening, capping off with our inaugural soiree Saturday evening. Grow a pair and buy tickets at denver.space. Can't make it, but still want to contribute to our cause? You can donate at donate.denver.space or zap us on Nostr at intern. It's a good namespace you got there on Nostr. At full-time Bitcoin. FTB coming in. 23,456 sats. 23456. Come check out the Mid-Missouri Bitcoiners next Wednesday, November 20th at Last Flight Brewing Company in Jefferson City, Missouri. Meetups rotate between Columbia and Jeff City. You can find us on meetup.com, Telegram, and the Orange Pill app. Drinks are on me. Don't miss it. Shout out to FTB. All our Missouri corners. Pointers.
FTB texted me and was like, "Oh, by the way, I'm sending an anonymous shout out for the meetup." And then the next text was, "Never mind, couldn't figure out how to do it anonymous. Did under my name."
You should have texted me. I mean, anybody can go to the page and see it. So that's on you.
I don't know. I thought it was fucking hilarious. So
at Toxic Bitcoiner 8,000 sats. Interviewer. If you get rid of the Federal Reserve, what do you replace it with? Thomas Sowell. When someone removes a cancer, what do you replace it with? Free Ross, day one. Did you see Charlie Kirk talking with Don Jr. about Ross? That's encouraging.
no. What were they saying?
Don Jr. asked Charlie Kirk, like, what does my father need to do early on? And the first thing Charlie Kirk said was free Ross, day one. He made the promise. Hold him to it.
Is Charlie Kirk a Bitcoiner?
I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised. He's the guy.
People love him.
People love him. People love him.
Oh no, I was saying the memes. Are they going to give Ross his Bitcoin back?
I don't know.
No shot in hell.
Doubtful.
That should be the next question. If you had Don Jr., you should ask that question. When Don Jr. comes on the show, you should ask him that question.
Don Jr., come on. Come sit down right next to me. We'll have a good combo. 8 Mithrandir, 7,777 sats. 7s across the board. Palindrome boost. Now comes the hard part. Staying humble.
Yeah.
Can we stay humble? How many times have you pointed at yourself in the mirror so far this week?
Every day. And Marty, you're already calling for Supercycle.
You get your unabashed bullish cycles. I was reading you back for 2 cycles in a row on this show. I get my Supercycle. Okay, let me have it. Let me enjoy it.
I'll be here for it.
Back to the software update list. Zeus version 0.9.2 has been released with export transaction history, BIP 353, Bolt 12, and hardware signer improvements. Crux version 24.11.0 has been released with experimental tamper detection tool and other improvements. Liana version 8.0 has been released with improved setup process, new templates, Bitbox 02 support, and more. For those who are unaware, Liana is wallet software that has enabled Miniscript. So if you want to play around with Miniscript, go check out Liana. RoboSats version 0.7.2 alpha has been released and lets users test Nostr global order books by enabling the option in the configuration tab. Local Send is a free and open source cross-platform tool for sharing files over the local Wi-Fi network with secure end-to-end encryption. That's pretty cool. Improving private signal calls has been released. This was really cool to see. We were talking about this in a group chat earlier this week. So I think you can replace Zoom with private signal calls now for your teams.
Yeah, I mean, you could already do, like, the video calls on Signal were already pretty good. I feel like they don't get enough credit. But the big one now is you can send a link, and that link can be reusable. So, like, people can just join the call via link. They don't have to be in your group.
Yeah. And this one coming from the base department, Molvad VPN cancels remaining PayPal subscriptions to collect less user data.
I love this. I think this is a trend to watch, which is that Bitcoin already is starting to dominate payments where there's no other option that fits that role, right? And so Molvad Mullvad, Proton, and iVPN all accept Bitcoin for their VPN service, and they all have pretty good, strong reputations because VPN is a trusted product. Like a hosted VPN is a heavily trusted product. You don't want to use like fly-by-night budget providers. They're probably spying on you. And there's no way for you to verify that logs aren't taken, period. So it's very much a reputation-based product. But Mullvad now is just cutting PayPal out completely and saying you have to use Bitcoin because we have too much information on you if you use PayPal. We're able to easily link it to your identity, and we just don't want that information as a company. And I think a perfect example of that would be someone like Silent.link, right? Which is they only accept Bitcoin when they accept Monero too, but they only accept Bitcoin and Monero because they don't want that user information. Period. They couldn't operate that service without Bitcoin existing. So when there's no other options, Bitcoin is obviously an incredibly useful tool.
Hello, base department? Yeah, I want to see more of this. Thank you. Click. Last but not least, not on the list, but shout out to you freaks in the Zap.stream live chat for crowdsourcing software updates. BTC Pay Server version 2.0.3 was released earlier today.
What is that?
Seems like a pretty vanilla upgrade. Improvements include Greenfield, create payout methods is now optional. Point of sale, they updated some button icons. Improve error messages. Yeah, seems like some bug fixes and all that.
On the Mullvad side, I don't know if they still do it, but they might. For a while, that you could pay with just like put cash in an envelope and mail it to them, which I thought was pretty badass. Obviously has its own issues, right? Like maybe the envelope never makes it. You don't know if it does or not. But that just shows you like, oh, you're trying to do private payments on the internet and you don't have Bitcoin. That's like the alternative is like literally mailing cash across the planet. Someone's in the live chat asking about the Proton ecosystem and whether or not it's a honeypot. I mean, that's a tough one. Both me and Marty use Proton heavily. I think it's a great product suite. I know some of the guys on the Proton team, and I've asked them straight up if they're spooks, and they've told me no.
What would a spook say, though?
They have to admit it if you ask them. I like tried to read his eyes. An attempt was made, but they have given over information in the past when requested, but they try and keep as little information as possible. So if I recall correctly, the information they provided was IP address of when the account in question connected to the service, and the recovery email address. So when you sign up for Proton, they ask if you want a recovery email address, and if you do like martybent@gmail.com, it's pretty obvious who it is, and your IP address, right? If you're not connecting using a VPN that's different than Proton, right? Because if you connect via Proton VPN, they obviously have your IP address anyway. So keep those things in mind. But net, right? I think Proton is the closest competitor to G Suite line of services, like the Google Suite line of services, Calendar, Drive, email, all the 9 yards, the whole 9 yards. And it's way better from a privacy and security perspective than using the Google Suite. So
give a shout out to the people working on Proton Calendar on mobile. They finally added the ability to add guests to calendar invites. It took
Proton Calendar on mobile fucking sucks.
They made it better. You can now add guests. It was a big upgrade for me.
I've been using like the mobile website because it's better than the app in my opinion for the calendar, but I will check it out.
You can now add people to calendar invites on the mobile app. Big upgrade.
They're working on it. I'm happily like the highest level paid person on Proton, paid subscription or whatever. I think it's well worth it, and it's good to support an organization trying to do it the right way and trying to do it in an ethical way. And you can pay in Bitcoin, which is incredibly important.
Very important. That's what we got for the list today. This was a great rip. Back and forth. Multivariate talk.
It's going to be a fun cycle.
It really is. It really is.
So it is going to be a cycle, though.
It is. I mean, do we want to comment on Trump's admin pick so far?
Yeah, what's your opinion? You endorsed him.
I did endorse him. Pretty good for us. Seems to be a lot of Bitcoiners being nominated for positions. Does seem like this time around there is some swamp shaking that could materialize. Again, won't know till he's in office and people are actually doing things. But
I have a question. Are you disappointed with any of the picks?
No, not really. I don't know enough about everybody. I like Tulsi. I like Tulsi. I think that's a really good one. I've been a Tulsi fan for almost 10 years now. And I'm happy that she's in the position.
I've always liked Tulsi.
Yeah. We might get Howard Lutnick as Treasury Secretary. That would be interesting.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think whatever. I thought we were not going to be a politics podcast after the election.
This is like powwow at the end. We're done. We don't have to say anything.
We're definitely not done. It's going to be 4 more years. But Marco Rubio for Secretary of State is. I feel like you guys should be giving him more shit for that. But I'm
not a big Marco fan.
That's just my viewpoint.
Narco Marco, as some people call him. Thoughts on the Polymarket founder getting raided by the FBI? That's pretty serious.
So is he back on your team now? I know he took a picture with Tim Walz, and you thought he was part of the enemy for a little bit. Now he gets raided by the Biden administration.
You know what? I had to sit down and think about it. Yeah, people take pictures. You know. How do we know? For all we know, Tim Walz could have walked up to him. Could have been like, "Hey, take a picture with me."
Did you see the meme that was like it looked like a screenshot of a Polymarket bet, and it was like, "Will our founder be in jail on January 1st or something like that?"
Yeah,
I thought that was pretty funny.
Oh, breaking news! Trump expected to select Robert F. Kennedy to lead HHS.
I mean, I don't know how Polymarket works, but I assume if it works the way it should work, he has no control over the way those predictions go. I assume it's self-custody and doesn't require a trusted third party. Is it not?
I don't know. Anybody in the chat?
That's how a proper prediction market should work, right? It shouldn't require permission. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have no idea how it works, but we'll see if more information comes out. I mean, I'm not one of those Bitcoiners that thinks that like all shitcoiners should be in jail. Like, I don't like using the state against people I disagree with. And I like the concept of prediction markets. And so if this is actually a retribution thing for the election, that's really fucked up. And even if it's not, like, even if it's because of security laws or something like that, it's also fucked up. And I would say that if anything, a prediction market saying that one candidate's more likely to win leading into election might hurt that candidate more than it helps, because it creates like an apathy environment.
Yeah, complacency.
You know, I'm not of the, like, if let's just say, like, hypothetically, Polymarket was completely fake, right? There was no actual participants that were actually, you know, participating in the market and moving it one way or the other, and it was just completely fake. And the Polymarket founder had decided that he was going to make it so that Trump was 70% and Harris was 30%. Like, I'm not convinced that actually helps Trump win the election. Like, if anything, it could cause apathy on his side of the block.
Could, but there's also, I mean, tinfoil hat Marty came on yesterday. Came out of the cage yesterday. And maybe it's retribution because Polymarket called the election early, sort of, and like if they wanted to rig the election. Which, if you look at some of the numbers in Wisconsin, it looked like there was some manipulation there. Nevada and Arizona as well, I believe. You could make, if it could be seeking retribution because they wanted to do something, and they would have to explain the prediction mark. Hey, tinfoil hat, walking through scenarios, exploring possibilities.
But they didn't even.
Not saying anything with certainty.
They could have just rigged the election and been like, no, the prediction market was wrong because it's a fucking prediction market and it's trying to predict something. It's not actually measuring votes.
Could have. Doesn't make it harder. I don't know. Exploring possibilities. Not saying anything with certainty.
Just asking questions.
Just asking questions.
Well, a rare occurrence of tinfoil hat Marty. You don't really usually see him around these parts.
I've been good. You become a father. you see what they're doing to Alex Jones and InfoWars.
Would the Onion purchase InfoWars?
Yeah, that is a bit comical.
What a timeline.
It will never defeat us as a spiritual battle, freaks. They can take down InfoWars, but that doesn't stop the information war that we currently find ourselves in. We meet here once a week to bring you and equip you with the necessary information that you need in the information war as pertains to Bitcoin.
The Onion will never buy Rabbit Hole Recap. But in his defense, like he didn't, it was like bankruptcy proceedings, right? It was like he didn't have a choice.
No, he didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
He does not control the assets. The bankruptcy estate controls them and sold them to the Onion.
Insane timeline we live in.
Really is. It's fun to be on this ride with you as we ride the roller coaster of this super cycle. It's going to be exciting.
Likewise, brother. Stay on with tech sets.
Peace of love.